Guys, so today I'm going to be talking about season 1 of MASH. It's a TV show from 1972 and 1973, and I think it holds up very well today, especially because the DVDs come with the option to remove the laugh track. Now, I don't know if I've mentioned this on this channel, but I hate laugh tracks. They ruin the immersion of the show, and you I don't know. I feel like it's insulting. Like, I don't need to be told when to laugh. If it's funny, it's funny. You know what I mean? Especially in a show like MASH, I feel like the laugh track especially stands out because this isn't exactly like a haha funny show most of the time. Like, yes, there's a lot of funny moments, but it's set in the middle of a war, so half the time the laugh track feels inappropriate. And also, a lot of scenes are set outside, so like where is the audience supposed to be? Like, where are they? Um, so that's dumb. Luckily, the DVD gives you the chance to remove the laugh track, which is much better. And it feels much more immersive. It feels like you're actually there with the characters instead of them putting on like a play or something. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. The show is awesome. It is set in the 1950s in the Korean War between the North Koreas and the South Koreans. I don't really know much about that war. Gonna be honest, I'm not a huge history person, but it's apparently a very stressful time for a lot of people, as most wars are. The show has this biting satire of it. It manages to be a comedy while also not making light of war. So the people in the show use comedy as an excuse to allows this to way to relieve stress rather than war itself being funny. And I think that's what makes this show age well and a show like Hogan's Heroes not age well. Everybody in the show takes their job seriously and they take the rules seriously, but also they like to cut loose a little bit. And I feel like if they didn't do that, they'd lose their minds. So this season 1 has 6 central characters to it. So let me talk about my thoughts on all 6 of them. So the main character of the show is Hawkeye Pierce. He is right here. He is definitely the center of the show. Like it has a very good ensemble, but he's the main character we follow in every single episode, and he is played brilliantly by Alan Alda. He's a very cynical person. He's a very cynical man, and honestly, who wouldn't be? I would be just like that if I was drafted into a role that the U.S. really. I don't know. Um, I could see some parallels with the show and the Vietnam War at the time. The whole anti-draft movement, anti-foreign involvement thing, and he uses this kind of practical jokes and cynical style of humor to keep his mind sane. Because in the show, like, you see a lot of scenes where they're in surgery for like 3 days straight. Sometimes they don't really get to rest that often. But most of the show is set in those very rare periods where they do get to rest. So I think that's interesting as well. Uh, yeah, he's very much of a womanizer, you know. He doesn't really treat them bad though. He's just a slut. So, I'm not here to shame him. Uh, though, to be honest, I feel like he's probably spreading around chlamydia. Everybody by season 11, everybody in this is gonna have an STD. I think it's just, a coping mechanism. Moving on to Chapel John. I don't really have many feelings on Chapel John. I feel like his personality is too similar to Hawkeye's to make him stand out. He's funny, and he has this warmth about him at the same time. Um, but he doesn't really do much to stand out. He's more of just a sidekick. He is there to, be Hawkeye's fellow prankster, while they're being goofy goobles, messing with the rest of the staff. Uh, I feel like there's some moments of depth to show that, like, he's definitely a good person when he was helping out the children in that one episode, and, he's clearly a good person, but it doesn't really stand out to me that much. Also, he cheats on his wife, so that kind of makes him a bad person, for being honest. But everybody's layered, right? Moving on to Henry Blake, who I think is my favorite character. Um, He he's very incompetent, which makes you question how he got this high to begin with. But certain moments shows that he actually is a great boss. He's one of those democratic leaders, which I actually admire, who trust his employees or staff enough to get the job done with minimal interruption from him. He basically doesn't really he doesn't like being no idle. He spends most of his time either fishing or again cheating on his wife. So he's also not that good of a person. Um, so I don't know. He has this warmth about him now that you just every time he's on the screen he kind of lights it up, and he has these like most of the time he's goofy, like when he was drunk in that one episode, or he's like sick that other episode. Like he always has something off about him, but he has these real like fatherly moments with Hawkeye, especially in Sometimes You Hear the Bullet, and a couple other times throughout the season. You know, he kind of breaks and he's like, it sucks that we're here. Just moments like that really humanize him and make him much more than just a goofy boss character. Moving on to Margaret, aka Hot Lips. She is kind of a hard ass, not exactly much developed in the season, but she is hilarious. Her relationship with Frank Burns it's sort of something, you know. She's kind of the as Angela from The Office would put it, the office mattress. She sleeps with almost every one of her superiors and fellow doctors, or season nurse, I think. Her and Frank, it's so funny when they're like the whole season they're hiding a relationship and everybody knows about it. They just don't really care, but to them it's so important that they keep it a secret. She's very judgmental of others, despite herself not really being the most ethical person. Having sex with a married man for 24 episodes straight. But there's some moments of warmth about her. She has some lighter moments, and I feel like that's going to show more as the seasons progress and she gets more prominent. Moving on to Frank Burns, he's just a he's just a pathetic. Um, he's just a weenie. He acts all like I'm the military man, I'm all honorable and stuff, but he's like the least honorable man on the planet. Like the time they have to defuse the bomb, he just faints. And he again, third time in the cast, cheats on his wife. Not good. He also kind of emotionally manipulates Margaret. Because if he really loved Margaret, he would just break up with his wife. I know that was frowned upon in the 50s, but I think it's even more frowned upon to cheat on your wife. He's mostly just kind of the target of Hawkeye and Chapel's pranks. And, I mean, it's funny, because Frank definitely has it coming to him. He acts like such an asshole to those guys. He's very pompous and arrogant. Though part of me was happy he got Hawkeye back in the finale. Like, I think Frank needed a win. Um, but overall, he's just an old fuddy-duddy. Moving on to Radar, who is a very great character on the show. He's multifaceted. He's um, he's young and naive and innocent, but also this huge smartass. So he'd say things that other people presume as him being innocent and naive, but he's really just messing with them. He has this sarcasm about him that I really like. Kind of similar to my sense of humor, where like he just kind of acts dumb sometimes, but really he's just being funny. Um, I also love his bond with Henry Blake. It kind of has like a father-son relationship, as they explained in the Ceasefire episode. I don't know, they're just really sweet together, and I think they bring out the best in each other. Speaking of nice bonds throughout the show, I also like Father McKay and Klingel's bond. Um, I just they have this unique dynamic and they play off well each other. Neither of them are giving much screen time this season. Their screen time, expands as the show goes on. But I feel like they have a lot of scenes together in this season, and I just think they're very funny together. There's also a bunch of other characters that nobody really cares about. We have Hojan, we have Spear Checkle, um, we have Ugly John, um, We have a bunch of these nurses who basically stop existing after this season. They're just gone. They're here, and then bam, never to be seen or mentioned again, which is a bit odd, if we're being honest. But it's not like these guys were that prominent anyway, so nobody's exactly tearing up that we're never gonna see Ugly John again. I don't know. He's just kind of there, as with all those other people I mentioned. Okay, time to talk about the top 5 episodes in the season. So This is hard to rank because I don't know. There was only one episode of the season I did not like, which was Edwina. I thought that episode was mean spirited, and they were just being very harsh on that poor woman for just being clumsy, as all of us are. But she was nice, and I feel like the whole mean spirited part of that episode just, I don't know, it didn't sit right with me. That's the only episode of the season I did not like. Moving on to the top 5. Um, I'd say I liked the Army Navy game. Fun fact, I believe this one was co-written. I could be wrong, but I feel like this one was co-written by McLean Stevenson's. So this one is the one where they're like trying to. There's like a bomb that's about to go off, or they don't know if the bomb's active or not, and the whole camp is freaking out, thinking like they're all gonna die, and they have to disarm the bomb, and they're trying to get people like the superiors to help them with this, but nobody gives a fuck because it's the football game between the army and the navy, and um, they're like, "I'll catch up with you after, I'll catch up with you during halftime." I think that's funny. It's a funny episode. There's also some funny Radar moments with him, like with the girl, like, "I've always wanted to tell you, I thought you were great," and like he tries to send another girl, thinking that they're all gonna die. Klingon has that thing where like he's explains to Father McKay. He actually has this really good scene where he says, "I, I don't know how I could help people in a role. He wasn't brought up to like role violence. That's why he dresses as a woman to get out of it. He doesn't do it because he's like a coward. He just does it because he just hates violence and he hates rule, the whole thought of it. I think that kind of adds another dimension to this character who is more of like a one trick joke character. It makes him a little bit more developed in a way. But yeah, this is a funny one. Also, Dear Dad. I liked Dear Dad a lot because it just kind of shows like the I don't know. Christmas specials always do it for me in a lot of shows. They have this sentimentalness that you like about it, but also this sadness, especially in this episode, because it's Christmas time. You're supposed to be with your family, but none of these guys could be with the family. They're all stuck at the army base, and we kind of just follow the characters as they go around their Christmas. Hawkeye is dressed as Santa Claus, coming in out of a helicopter. Chapel's helping these sick children. Um, you know, uh, Klingel kind of just, he's losing it. He wants to blow himself up, and Father McKay stops him, which isn't really a funny scene. It's more of a sad scene, and it shows the great chemistry again. I don't know, I just like that episode. I think it was very well written and acted, of course. Let's see what else. Oh, the Long John flap is another highlight for me. This one is the first episode written by Alan Alda. He writes 19 throughout the series, so he actually, his first episode was very funny. It it's a very cold winter, and Hawkeye is the only one with long johns, which I didn't even know existed. They're like big undergarments to put under your clothes. But he lets Trapple borrow his, and then Trapple gives it to Radar. No, Trapple gives it to. How does it work again? Hawkeye gives it to Trapple. Trapple gives it to Radar. Radar gives it to the cook. The cook gives it to Frank. Frank gives it to Margaret. Margaret gets it stolen from Klingel. Klingel gives it to Father McKay, and then Father McKay gives it to Henry. It's just like the whole time Hawkeye's trying to track down where these long johns are so he could get him back, and he just can't because like they're all just stealing it or giving it to each other. It's very funny, and then at the end when Henry has to get operated on while he has the long johns, and the announcer's like, Henry Blake is going to be fine, and everybody's like, yay, and the long johns are safe, and everybody's like, whoa, yeah. It's just so funny. Um, I really liked that one. Number two is Sometimes You Hear the Bullet. This is kind of a game changer episode for MASH because while other episodes have had dramatic moments, this one was very dramatic. So we see Hawkeye's friend who's writing a book called You Never Hear the Bullet, about how some soldiers die without even knowing, like it, without even seeing it coming. And he, this guy Ladle does get shot, and he does die. And this is a close friend of Hawkeye's, so it really affects him on an emotional level. And to see him to get so emotional after battling, his resentment about being in the army up. He said, like, this is the first time I've cried since I've gotten here. And Henry to console him was such a good scene. That was hard. I mean, it was hard to watch, but it was so well acted. They really nailed it with that one. And you have Ron Howard guest starring, post Opie, pre Arrested Development. Ron Howard, who is playing this teenage soldier who's not 18 yet, and he wants to. He's like, yeah, let's fight. It kind of reminds me of All Quiet on the Western Front, the original movie, where like at the beginning they're like, yeah, let's do this. I love being in a role, and then by the end of it, they're all just checked out. And Hawkeye's like, I don't want to see another person die. So he tells him he's not gonna snitch on him for being underage. But after his friend dies, he's like, I can't take this anymore, and he does snitch on him and gets him sent home. That's a very character-defining moment for Hawkeye, because it shows like he cares more about his life than just keeping a secret. I don't know. That episode was very emotional. I loved that one. But number one, my favorite episode of the season was Tuttle. Comedic gold. Hawkeye and Chapel make up a fake soldier named Tuttle because they're funneling money out to this nunnery, and it kind of like gets around, but for their own reasons, everybody acts like Tuttle does exist or just believes it. Like they believe they have this close connection to him. Henry, I think he genuinely thought he met him. He just forgot, which a lot of us have done. So it just adds to the comedy of it. Margaret's like infatuated with him, and like because she read his report about being tall and auburn hair, and beautiful eyes, and she's like, "Oh, I think I like him." And Frank's jealous, so he's like wants to get paired up with Tuttle, and everybody's all in on it for their own reasons. Um, and then it gets too big to handle, so Hawkeye kills him off by having him like his parachute malfunction. So it leads to the funniest scene where Hawkeye gives this big speech about this guy he never met and doesn't even exist, and Henry's like, "That's the best damn CO this outfit's ever had." It's so funny. I think that's the hardest I've laughed in an episode of MASH. It was so fucking funny. So yeah, that's my top 5 episodes of MASH and my thoughts on each of the characters and season 1 as a whole. I think the season is a great first season full show. Sometimes it takes them a little while to get going, and I would say the second half of the season was much stronger than the first half, but they still showed promise early on, and overall, really much enjoyed this episode this season, and I'm looking forward to watching the next 10 seasons, even if it takes forever. Expect my season 2 review sometime during January, because it's gonna take me a while to watch this and the new season of Stranger Things when that comes out. So I'll be kind of bouncing between the two of them with my mom. She's been watching this with me as well. Let me know what you guys thought of season 1 of MASH down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.